Heart disease is the #1 cause of death for both men and women. And yet there are some pretty key differences between the two sexes when it comes to how it develops, how it presents itself, and how it's treated. Heart disease has a major impact on both sexes. But what my research has led me to realize is most of the attention, most of the treatments, most of the science out there is really focusing on men instead of women. So on today's episode of Your Best Life, you're going to hear from a woman that had not one but two heart attacks 4 days apart. 4 days. I want you to hear her story, but I want you to also hear her warning signs. I want you to hear how it impacted her life and how she took such a traumatic event and turned it to good. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Your Best Life. I'm your host and healthy living correspondent, Beth Schomp. On a recent episode of Your Best Life, I covered some pretty important differences between men and women when it comes to heart attacks, heart disease, how they're diagnosed, and most importantly, how they're treated. And so today's episode really is an extension of that. I have a wonderful guest speaker who has a very unique and compelling story to tell. So I'd like to introduce you to my friend Tracie Jones. Now, Tracie and I really haven't been friends very long. We met on social media. You know how social media will make a suggestion of different friends. And Tracie was suggested that I connect with because we used to work for the same company several years ago. We weren't there at the same time, so we didn't know each other, but we had some mutual friends. And as I was looking at her profile, I saw this wonderful, inspirational blog that she does. And I was just so moved by it. And as I was reading it, I discovered that Tracie had experienced not one, but two heart attacks within 4 days. So I reached out to her and I told her I wanted to hear her story. And once I heard her story, I knew you would want to hear it as well. So welcome, Tracie. Thank you so much for being a part of our show today.
Thanks, Beth. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. Well, let's just jump right into it. So how long ago was this where this happened?
It was in April of 2017.
April of 2017. Okay. So let's go back to that time. And was there something that happened? What was the issue that surrounded this event?
I was just at work like a normal day, and I was actually out in the field that day and driving back to my office, and out of the blue, I felt a pain in my left shoulder blade that was equivalent to me to contractions in childbirth.
Wow, that's pretty intense then. That's an intense.
It was probably, it was some of the worst pain I've ever experienced.
Mm-hmm. So when you experienced that pain, then did you go to the doctor about it, or did you do what a lot of women will do, which is ignore it? Tell me what happened.
I went back to my office, and my assistant went and got a heating pad for me and brought it in, and I sat in my office in my chair with the heating pad on my back, and I had had bronchitis for the past 2 weeks prior to this, so I thought maybe I'd pulled a muscle or something like that, but the pain just continued, and this was on a Thursday, and so I just took my heating pad and went home and worked the rest of the day from bed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then did it just magically go away, or did it continue to grow, or what else happened?
Well, that Thursday night I ended up just being in bed, and I didn't sleep very well. But the next day I had a full day of meetings out, fully dressed, heels, the whole thing. But I couldn't move my left arm. Like, it had to stay down. And as long as it stayed straight down, my back, my shoulder blade didn't hurt. And but as the day progressed, I actually started feeling better. And a friend of mine, we had dinner plans for the evening, and I let her know that I would still be there. And when we were at the restaurant, we had just ordered, and I started feeling sick, like nauseous sick. And so I excused myself to the restroom. And at that point, I was sweating and nauseous, sick, and I knew something is not right. And so I went back to the table, let her know I needed to go home. I went home and got back on the heating pad, and this was Friday night.
So at what point did you discover this is actually a heart attack?
Okay, well, I ended up staying in bed all day on Saturday and then all day on Sunday. And by this time, the pain in my back is so bad that like it's making me physically sick. And so I am very stubborn, and I didn't want to believe. I think in my heart, I knew what was happening, but I didn't want to admit it. So by 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, I went to a doc in the box. I didn't go to the emergency room at the hospital. I went to the Medi clinic, and I walked up to the counter and I said, I have to go to work tomorrow. I need some painkillers because my back's really hurting, and it's kind of pulsating now through my back and deep behind my chest, like deep. And I didn't even finish filling out paperwork. The doctor heard me and came to the counter and said, please come to the back now. And within 10 minutes, they had taken blood and x-ray, and he came and picked my hand up and he said, sweetheart, you've had one heart attack and you're in the middle of having a second heart attack. We have to move you to a hospital. What hospital do you want to go to? And that's when I knew.
And so this was the second of the two that you had.
It was the second of the two, yes.
You had a heart attack and you didn't even know it was a heart attack. The first one.
You know, Beth, looking back now, if I'm being honest, when I left the parking lot that Thursday, that it first happened, I remember leaving the parking lot and saying, Jesus, please don't let this be a heart attack. And so part of me knew it was, part of me wanted to ignore it, and the part that wanted to ignore it won. Mm-hmm. So I went about just thinking this is a backache. If it was a heart attack, I'd already be, on the floor, right? So It's not a heart attack.
Right.
So it wasn't until I got Sunday night that I knew for sure that I was in trouble, and I was in really bad trouble because I hadn't gone to the emergency room on Thursday.
Where I think this is so important that women really wake up on this particular warning sign with the shoulder and the back, because shoulder injuries are very relevant these days. And here's why. As we get older, our shoulders have a tendency to rotate forward, and they rotate forward. If you think about it, everything we do, we're on computers, we're driving, we're texting, everything is like this. And I know this because I battle shoulder issues, and I'm always having to stretch and make sure that I'm keeping things in alignment. But it's something that I personally struggle with. And so I can see, other women kind of, including myself, kind of dismissing it, going, oh, it's the shoulder again, that, we really have to pay attention to these things. Okay. So is there a family history for you with heart disease?
Well, both my mother and my father had heart issues. Mm-hmm. My brother died at 60 from a stroke. But they all smoked, and my brother didn't, but he did some other damaging things with alcohol and stuff. But I thought because the smoking was the reason. And so I didn't, when I would go to the doctor and they would say, is there a family history? No, because I attributed their heart issues to smoking.
Their lifestyle choices, right? Yeah.
Right. And that's not the truth. The truth is that now, as I can see clearly back, there has to be a genetic heart disposition in our family, because my brother did die of a stroke, and then my other brother died. And so there is a heart connection in our family. So,
that's another good point for us to really kind of breathe a little bit more life into. My father had heart disease for 24 years before he passed. So as a teenager, I grew up with this picture of what heart disease is. And with my mother, we never saw her with, heart disease. And this is the interesting thing. Of course, I think the older we live, like my mother is now 91, the heart, that heart has ticked a lot of beats, if you think about it. So it's not unusual the older we get that we really need to pay attention to our heart and our heart health. And so my mother, years ago, her doctor told her that she had a heart murmur. And I won't get into the story of all of that, but here's the thing, is that she never really shared that with us. And now I know about it. It's a longer story, but I even went to her sisters who didn't know. And you need to know those things because at some point it could become very relevant. So when they ask these questions, the doctors, we really shouldn't I think your point is relevant, that we have this preconceived notion on how to answer that question. So I think the more information, probably the better. So do you feel that stress played a part in all of this? Because we hear that a lot. The stress is a factor in a heart attack. Do you feel that stress was a role for you? Played a role?
I do. I do. I believe that not knowing how to manage stress. Today, I know how to manage my stress better. Then I was not as aware. I mean, I knew I had stress, but it was a label to me. I feel stressful, whatever. But really, there are things that happen inside of our body. It goes into, it's a mind thing too. Whenever you're thinking in a stressful way, your body's not, you go to bed with stress on your mind, your body can't heal during sleep. And so I've learned how to deal with my stress, but 1000%, I believe stress had something to do with it. And I think it probably has to do with a lot of heart attacks.
Sure. So you are a faith-based public speaker. We'll talk more about that at the end. Okay. So how did faith play a part before and after?
Beforehand, I've been a Christian for as long as I can remember. I grew up in a home I just knew, when I was a child, I knew Jesus. So it wasn't like, I had an experience or anything. It's just, I've always had a relationship with Jesus. But afterwards, when the cardiologist came in my room the next morning that did the surgery, he said to me, you're a very, very fortunate woman, because 70% of the people who do what you did and ignore it die. Wow. So there's only 30% of the people that do, right? And when I woke up, I told the Lord, thank you so much for saving me, and for not letting my stubbornness, for giving me grace during the stubbornness. And I said, I will keep my mouth open and I will share. I will be, I'll make you proud for saving my life. It's only enhanced throughout my life. There's been many things that have happened, but it's only enhanced the fact that, my faith played a huge part in my survival. I think that all the relationship with Jesus along the way, he wasn't finished using me. And
that's very
he
similar
saved my life.
To our story. That's very similar to our story, because with Russ and his cancer, pancreatic cancer, no less. And that's how this entire YouTube show was birthed. Is I felt I owed God voice, and turning that event. This was my way, whereas your blog, which we will give information for her blog in the content below, but I really felt that this was my way to contribute and make something good from what was a traumatic event in our lives. So I totally get it. Hi, sorry for interrupting the show. I just wanted to take a moment to let you know about one of my passions other than hosting this show. I belong to an exclusive wellness shopping club, and I have done so for over 20 years. I trust them with my family's health and my health. This club provides US-made products that are safe, affordable, focusing on your health and household and beauty. Things that we use every single day. Anyway, I'll let you get back to the show, but if you have any questions about joining, you want any information at all, I provided info below. So, all right. So post heart attack, what did your recovery look like?
My recovery was a struggle, and it was because I waited. There was more damage to my heart because of the second heart attack. And so my recovery was very slow. I had to be on medication to keep my heartbeat very, very slow, almost sometimes down to 40, so that the heart could repair itself. And so it was a slow process. But in that time is when a lot of things were birthed. I had a lot of time to spend in prayer and in relation with my father. And so a lot of ideas were birthed. A lot of the blog and the book and all of that was birthed through that quiet time. I called it my time on the bench. I think he benched me because I needed to reevaluate what was important in my life, and reevaluate how I was going to manage my stress going forward. And, there were some things going on in my life at the time I needed to trust more. And I was able to really see that although I can't reach and touch his hand right now, like I could physically touch a person's hand, he is nearer to me than that. So
many times, when it comes to stress, we are increasing our stress load because we're trying to handle it ourselves as opposed to putting it in God's hands. So,
yes.
And so that's part of that. That's part of that recovery, is that learning to let go and learning to give it up. What kind of lifestyle changes did you make?
Well, I did not live the healthiest lifestyle beforehand. I pretty much would eat what I want to eat. I wasn't a big exerciser. I've never loved it's never been in me to bounce to the gym first thing out of bed. So it took some time for me. I did make some changes. I went a little extreme at first. I cut out anything white, and I went too extreme. And what happened was I went through a period of rebellion. And so what I came to the conclusion of is that my diet is 90% healthy, and then I've got a 10% fun.
Of course.
So every day I can have something of delight. It just is but it's not a whole piece of cake or a whole bowl of ice cream, or maybe it's a cookie or whatever. I love treats. So what I did in the beginning was I cut everything out, and that didn't work.
Right.
So now today I do, I pretty much, if it's white, it's out. And a lot of, I would say more of a pescatarian lifestyle. I do still eat chicken and beef, but it's not regularly. It's more fish and salad and vegetables, and I think that heals the body.
It does. Without a doubt, there's science and proof to support what you said. I think it's really important that we kind of latch on to this part about that. It's, first of all, it's a lifestyle, not a diet. And this is what I try to teach people, is that this evolution, evolving from an unhealthy lifestyle to a healthy lifestyle, it's got to be one that you can maintain, and that's
right.
Why what you're pointing out is although your intentions were great, it's really hard to maintain that long term,
Yeah.
And so it's the mindset plays such a part of it. And if the mind feels like, you know what, I can do this. And you can do it by giving those little tiny, just those little tiny graces, that's like, whether it's the bite of something sweet or, something like that. Absolutely.
Well, I have a 3-bite rule. And so if I'm out at a restaurant and somebody wants to order dessert, I can have 1 to 3 bites of that. And then that's it. I get to enjoy it, but I'm not at the table going, oh, I can't eat that. When I go to a Mexican food restaurant, I'll put 3 chips on my thing, break them up, and, I'll enjoy some chips and cheese dip or some chips. I'm not going to say no, because I find that when I say no, it immediately puts me into a rebellion state. But 90% of the time it's going to be, water is extremely important to your body, and the vegetables are very important to your body. And I think there's a lot more protein in vegetables than people realize. So
Sure.
I'm not as meat heavy as I used to be. But Beth, what I found out is that my body felt better.
Yeah.
Like getting rid of the bread and the dairy products, and which I still do use butter, but occasionally. But it was getting rid of milk, and it was getting rid of all the other dairy things. My body started feeling better. I felt better, and I don't think I realized before this, like, how impactful. If you eat a pizza and eat a bowl of ice cream, your body is like lethargic. So I just felt better, and then everything started tasting better.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is just slowing down and being present. Being present when you're having a meal, and enjoying the meal, and being aware and present in terms of how your body feels. And I think as women, we're so busy running around and taking care of everybody else, and we don't take care of ourselves. And so I think that's such a good lesson for us to learn. So you have a story about your cardiologist. He kind of surprised you with some news when you were going through this journey. What was it that he told you that shocked you?
Well, when he came in the next morning, of course, that was the first time I'd met him, because I was asleep by the time he started working on me, and I'd never met him before. And he came in, and I said, I'm just really confused. I don't understand. I had a coronary calcium score not too long ago, and it was 0%. Now, I will admit that when I left, I thought 0%, how could that be? Because I've lived life, but it was 0. I thought, I'm healthy. I went on about life, when in reality, I was a walking heart attack. What he told me and explained to me about the calcium score and why we shouldn't depend on that is because when the plaque is still sticky in the arteries, the actual test won't pick up the sticky. It'll only pick up if the plaque is hardened. So if you go in and you have hardened plaque, it's going to tell you, and you're going to know next steps. But in my case, it was still sticky. It was still young. And so it gave a false positive. It sent me out the door thinking that I was okay when I wasn't okay.
You had a false sense of confidence on it. Yeah.
That was in 2015, and 2 years later I had a heart attack. So I left thinking I'm completely healthy, and I wasn't. So I tell everyone to skip. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I have a life experience. I would skip the coronary calcium test and go straight to the stress test and get the real outline of what's going on in your arteries.
Well, I think that is really good advice. And finally, is there any other advice that you would give a woman when it comes to her heart health? What other type of advice would you give?
Well, I would say that if you have any pain in your back, not to ignore it. We have a billboard. I live in the Frisco, Texas area, and we have a billboard that says it happens in the back. And that's where it happens, and it's a woman. It happens in the back for women many times. It's not the jaw tingling. It's not the arm going numb. It's, not the chest pains you see in the movies. It is a very different experience. And so I would tell anyone, if you are feeling any pain that is out of the ordinary, and I think you'll know, I would go straight to the emergency room. I would also, the cardiologist also gave me some good advice that I pass on now, and that is, if you're a male over the age of 40 and a female over the age of 45, you need to go and have a baseline. If I'd had that baseline at 40, I wouldn't have ended up with a heart attack. But we're not told that. We're not told to go get a baseline. We're told that for our, for our breast health, and we're told that for our lady part health, but we're not told that for our heart. And if our heart stops, your breast and everything else are not going to matter. So I'm so proud that I've shared this news. And so far, 20 women have gone and asked for, and one man have gone and asked for a heart baseline. And the doctors kind of look at you like you're crazy because they're used to fixing a problem, not being proactive.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to go in and tell them, this is what I want. I want a stress test. I want to know. I want a baseline of what my heart looks like. And if you're over the age of 45 and a female, I highly suggest that you go do that. If they look at you crazy, do not let them tell you you don't need it, because it's the proactive, and we are responsible ultimately.
Mm-hmm. That's such great advice, and it's totally in alignment with the things that we teach on this show. So Tracie Jones, thank you so much for being a guest speaker here. This has been invaluable information. Now, I know some members of our audience, they're going to want to be able to follow you. So what would you share? And we will put this in writing in the content below, but how can people reach out to you in terms of whether it's contacting you or whether it's your blog or whether they're looking for a faith-based public speaker? How can people reach out to you?
You can reach me on the blog. It's Tracie. It's www.tracie, my name, TRACIE.life, LIFE, Tracie.life. And my email is tracie@tracie.life. And it's TRACIE. You can reach me there. The blog is such a precious gift that I've been working on so hard. So I encourage everyone to go take a look at it and subscribe. I'm currently writing a book. So if you subscribe, you'll get notifications when the book is ready. But they can reach me there or at the email.
That sounds
and all my
great.
social media is on the blog as well.
That's great. That's wonderful. And to our audience, thank you so much for watching. Now, if you have any other questions regarding this episode, or you have some ideas that you'd like to see for future episodes, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me at yourbestlife9@gmail.com. Now, if you would do both of us a favor and like this video, if you have not done so, please subscribe to the channel. That really helps us to expand our audience so that we can help more people with learning about such a message like Tracie has shared today. So until next time, be happy and be healthy.